In our last lesson, we looked at how tables work in XHTML and HTML. And in this lesson, we're going to look at how you can format your tables using CSS. CSS stands for Cascading Style Sheets, and that's the technology that's used on the web for formatting web pages and making them look prettier than the default might be if you didn't have any styling at all. And of course, a lot of what you do with CSS you can do with attributes in XHTML and HTML. Most people recommend that you use CSS, and I'm going to tell you why CSS is better. In a nutshell, using CSS, you can name your styles and you can then apply those styles to a number of different places within your document. And then if you need to change them, you can simply change it in one place and it changes all across the document. It's a lot easier to manage your styles and it's a lot easier to apply them in an organized fashion. And we'll see some examples of that in this lesson. So let's get into it. Here is the table here in this table-css.html document, and this is our editor here on the top, and this is the browser here on the bottom. So you can see it's the same table from our last lesson, which looked like this, except that it's got some style applied to it. So it's a bit more attractive, and in my opinion, it's a bit easier to read as well. And so here is the XHTML file, and this is the CSS file over here in this tab, and we'll be looking at this in a little bit of detail as we get into the lesson. So for now, let's look at the XHTML. You see there's the table, and the table ends down here at the bottom. It looks very much like the table did in our last lesson with a few significant differences. We have these class attributes here for applying the styles, and we'll see how that works in just a moment. So here's the table, and over here in the CSS, you'll notice that we have some style applied to the body, and we have some style applied to the table, we have some style applied to the caption. And this is an example of cascading style sheets, CSS. What the cascading means in CSS is that styles apply on top of styles. So for example, we have some style applied to the body. The background is white. You see the FFF means white. The font is set to Tahoma or sans serif if Tahoma is not available on your system. So we see that the font throughout the document is this Tahoma font. And the font size is set to, because Tahoma tends to read a little bit big, so I made it a little bit smaller. And these are just my choices, of course. You know, you make your own choices in your own style sheet, but I like it like that. So that's applied to the entire document. Even to these elements within the document, it's still applied. So the table itself has a border, it has a border style, it has a border color. The background of the table is this white, because that's the style that was applied to the background of the entire document. If I change this from white and make it, I don't know, say FCC, which is a sort of a reddish color, save that, and reload, we see that that applies to the entire document. It even applies to the background of the table there. Now there's certain table cells where I've set the color to be gray and to be white, and of course those get their own styles. But this is an example of the cascading because the entire document has this color, and that's also applied to the elements within the document, like for instance in this table. I'll change that back. We'll see some more examples of this as we go on. It should be really clear by the time we're done. Save that and reload. Now, if we look over here at the caption, we see it says My Favorite Albums, and it has the caption tag. If we look in CSS, we'll see that we have a caption selector here on this style, and that applies to all the caption tags that it'll find in the document, which happens to be 1, and it applies this bold style. The font is the Tahoma font because that was set up in the body. And if I were to change that to something else, like, Comic Sans MS, save and reload. And then we see the entire document. It changes to Comic Sans MS, including even the caption, where we have caption set to bold. It's picking up that font from the body. This is the cascading in cascading style sheets. Put this back to Tahoma and save and reload, and that changes it everywhere in the document. Now, let's take a look at the table row and the table heading. Now, we'll notice in the cascading style sheets, table row does not have a style attached to it. Table heading has this align equals left, font weight bold, and color equals 666, which is a medium gray. And we'll see here that the table heading in this row here is got the bold. It's got the left align. You'll remember in our last document, we'll take a look at that the table headings were centered. I like them a lot better on the left. I think they read better on the left. They align better with the data on the left, so they look more like the headings on these tables. And so it has these styles applied, of course, on top of the styles that are applied to the body of the document. We have this row here, which has a table row class equals gray, and then it's got the data cells with their own classes, artist, title, and comment. This is another example of cascading. You'll see over here we have tr.gray, tr.white, and td.artist, and td.title. These are selectors with classes. So tr.gray means a tr tag with a gray class. And we look over here, we have a tr tag with a gray class. And so wherever the document sees tr class equals gray, and there's another instance of it here 2 rows down, then that class will be applied from here. tr gray has a background color set to this light gray. And so all the cells within that row, you have TD, 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 will all get that gray background. You'll see here they are, gray, gray, gray. So that gets applied to these cells, even though these cells have their own class. This one is artist, this one is title, this one is comment. These data classes get applied on top of the row class because these elements are within the TR container. So the TR is wrapped around these data cells. And so this class gets applied first because it's in the outer box, and these classes get applied on top of that because they're inner boxes. And so it looks like this on the page. You have the gray all the way across, and then you have this artist class, which has got this maroon color, this title class, which is italic, and this comment class. And you see here, the comment class has a blue color to it. And so these classes here, TD artist, TD title, TD comment, they get applied after the row classes. And it doesn't matter where they are in the document here. I could move these, just drag them up here, and now they're above. Save that and reload here. It doesn't change. They're still applied in the same order. You've got the gray and you've got the other. And that's because it's not what order they're in the file, it's how they appear in the document. It's what container contains something else. So I'm going to put this back just because I like it that way, and save it and reload, and we'll see that this is still how we expect it to be. So the artist class, the title class, the comment class, these apply to the fonts. We have a color, we have an italic, we have another color, and these get applied on top of the row classes. So in a nutshell, that's how it works. It's really easy to do. By using the classes in this way, like for instance, if I wanted to change this gray and make it maybe a lighter gray, I'll just make it EEE instead and save it. It applies in all of these different places throughout the document. You see now we have this very light gray. Hopefully you can see it on your screen. I can barely see it on mine. But it applies all throughout the document. I only need to change it in one place or make it maybe a little bit bluish. Save that and reload. We have a slightly bluish gray. So change this in one place and it applies throughout the document, and that really is the power of cascading style sheets right there. So this is how you can format a table to make it attractive using CSS. You see here's what our table looks like before. Very plain. That's the defaults for HTML. That's how it was originally envisioned so that they could put tabular data in a document. And this is what you can do using CSS to make it more readable and more attractive.